And welcome to TFT Tarot for Today, our YouTube channel. And this is a segment of Banshee's Soul Stories. And of course, if you've watched before, you know that Banshee has given us several, 6 or 7 personal accounts that combine symbols, signs, synchronicities from her own life that pretty much, gave her a clue or a wisdom, that embodies her concept of the soul stories. So for a long time, I have wanted to do my own soul story. And as you notice, I have a little friend here. It's Shadow, who wants to be seen too. She'll probably jump up here in a moment. But I've thought a long time about doing some soul stories. And of course, I have a number of them. Will you please stop that, baby? This one's not going to be easy, I guess, eh? Anyway, my particular soul story goes back to literally this day, October 20th, in 1974, and I would like to call it a Pigeon Ascending. All right, so let me give you a little backstory. As you may or may not know, I am a native Detroiter. I was born in Detroit City, 1955, and I've actually lived there most of my life. And so in 1974, late 1974, I was not quite 19. I had gone to Detroit schools, including a high school that I graduated from in 1973. And I happened to win the SAT scholarship award. And because my family qualified, my father could prove that we were kind of not rich. Actually rather not rich, but that's a whole nother soul story. So I won the scholarship, and it was a 4-year, all classes paid for scholarship, just the classes, so there was no extra benefits for books or supplies or housing or anything like that. I went to the Detroit area Wayne State University, which is pretty much a commuter campus, or at least for sure it was at that time in the early 70s. So that's what happened. I went there, and in my second year of college, my first year was October 1973, but in my second year, things had been changing rapidly for the last few years within my family structure. I had the typical family structure, several siblings, 3 to be exact. And my mother was the last of the Beaver Cleaver moms, as I like to call her. She never worked outside the house. She would occasionally go to my father's business, which was somewhere relatively close by. We were on the east side of Detroit, near Hamtramck, the Polish enclave city within Detroit City. But we didn't live in Hamtramck. We lived there later. That's another story too. But we were very close to that neighborhood of the Polish enclaves. So, and we were in fact, semi-Polish ourselves. My mother is Lithuanian, full-blooded Lithuanian. Her parents were born here, but not her grandparents. My father is mixed German-French. His mother was not born here. She came over from Germany somewhere around 1912 or so. But his father was a French-Belgian son of people who came, to America from France and Belgium. His grandmother and grandfather, which would be my great-grandmother, who I actually knew. Anyways, I'm getting carried away here. And so in my second year of college, a lot of things propelled me to want to move away from my family and move down to the Wayne State area. Naturally, it was 1974, and I was in the midst of my post-high school. I'm a hippie, and I always will be a hippie, to be totally frank with you about that. But I was very inspired by the anti-Vietnam War movement, the youth movement, all of the cultural stuff that goes with long hair, emphasis on rock music of all kinds. I loved all of it. And so, due to the family tensions, I had an older sibling who pretty much was that so-called dark sheep of the family and had problems. And my parents kind of doubled down on me. We were close in age, my older sibling. And so they wanted to make sure I didn't make those mistakes that he was making or had made. He was already long out of the house by this point, at least a year or two. So they doubled down on me, and my life was uncomfortable. And I didn't like being a full-time student, also working part-time somewhere, and then putting up with them. And I felt pretty mature enough. And so during the week in earlier October of 1974, my beloved and my mother's beloved aunt, but my great aunt from Chicago, one of my favorite aunts, her husband, my great uncle, was the person when I was 12 who hosted us, me and my siblings, and specifically saw the glimmer in me, taught me about auras, shared his wisdom from Edgar Cayce and things like that. That was actually 1968, and it was the summer that I discovered Wicca. But anyways, he was dead by then, and so this great aunt had come to visit us in October of 1974, earlier in October, and this was actually at the high point of my family and mine arguments, bickering with each other. And so one day at the dinner table with my great aunt there, I said, I'm moving. I had already had a number of friends in the college area, some who did live on campus, and I was told that I could meet somebody who was looking for a roommate. And this too is a whole nother soul story. But I'll get to that in another soul story. I decided to take the plunge, and even though I was technically unemployed at that time, receiving unemployment, yeah, I know, it's so naughty. I decided I really needed to be down on campus, to be a student that lived on campus, to be away from my parents. And so I began the process. I hooked up with this potential roommate, and we decided to give it a go. So I moved in, and that actual date was today, October 20th. And so it was a bittersweet thing. My dad really hated this. My mom was a lot more able to accept that. And also earlier in the month or so, probably for about a month, my wonderful mother had found a pigeon that had broken wings or could not fly, was ill or sick. And even though we had dogs and cats, my mom, the good-hearted, caring heart person, the animal empath that she is, just like one of my siblings, just like that sibling's child, they all exhibit a kind of animal empathy. They're often even able to diagnose what's ailing an animal. My mother would have been a veterinarian if her parents had more money and could have afforded her going to college too. So that's what ended up happening. My mom took in this little injured pigeon, and for several weeks she was nursing it back to health, mostly just giving it water and food and keeping it safe from that cat, which was my cat. My actual first familiar I had gotten literally about a year before, not quite Christmas time of 1973. Little Coco, my favorite little familiar. My first familiar. Anyway, or, animal companion, I realize, there's this whole thing. But Coco himself is another soul story, so someday I'll explain why he is my first familiar. Anyway, my mom needed to keep the little pigeon safe. And so in the process of moving out, I've been going in and out of the house over a day or so. And so the final wrap-up was on October 20th. So I came there after class. I guess it was after class. I came back home and said, okay, this is it, Mom. And me and Mom were the only ones home. My siblings were at school. My dad was at work. And my mom said, will you help me with something? I really need to let the pigeon go. And so we went down. I'm going to cry. We went down to the basement, and the pigeon was in its little box that my mom had given it. And we removed the water bowl and the food bowl. And we took it upstairs and out into the backyard. And we lived in Detroit on the northeast side. I went to the popular, well-known high school on 7 Mile, if you know Detroit at all. And I lived on a street, and my street address was 17831, 17831. I won't say the street name, but it was literally about a block away from the high school, but about half a mile down, closer to 6 Mile. And 17831 adds up to numerologically number 2, which my real name, I was already into numerology at this time, also vibrates to 2. It's an intuitive moon ruled number. So anyways, we had one of those extra lots that was not quite common in Detroit area. Most houses had a single lot, and there would be trees, of course, back at this time. We had that extra lot, which had trees. It had a pear tree. There was a grapevine. Wonderful little house. I dreamt about it for years after I had moved away. It just was in my mind so much. And that's another soul story too. But so what ended up happening was we took it out into the yard near the little bird bath that my mom had put up, and we opened the top of the box, or we took off the top of the box, and without a word, the pigeon just sort of floated up and ascended, and we just stood there and watched it. We had no idea it was going to be like that. It just up and flew away, and it flew up into the sky and away. And it was just such a metaphor for my life, a pigeon being set free. And I never got along better with my parents, at least from that phase of time, that difficult phase, the teen years, than after I moved away. Even though I was struggling, I was respected, and things were just so much different. And I love my parents, especially my mom, the most. I did have a more difficult relationship with my father. Rest in peace. But so that's the story of the pigeon ascending, the metaphor that it gave to my life to be free. And certainly I have enjoyed giving this soul story and hope that there will be more. Bye now. Thanks for listening.